Alright, so this is the next project. This is going to be a big one, guys. This is a lot of videos on this truck. So we're going to turn this into my dream truck. We got a lot of work to do. I think the plan of attack, I've thought about this for a while. The first thing I want to do is remove this cab. That's a really daunting task. There's a lot of things connected to that cab. It's probably one of the hardest things we're going to do, so it is good to get that out of the way first thing. So once we remove the cab, I'd like to set that aside, maybe over here, and just restore the whole thing. And really, that's mainly the floor. The floor is kind of rotted out in some places. But I would like to restore the whole thing inside and out. Sandblast the whole bottom, paint it, remove the liner, or what's left of it, paint it, probably even use like a bed liner on it, and then maybe even put something more comfortable on top, like some sort of fuzzy carpet or something. I don't know, we'll see. But I think the first thing we need to do on this is just get this cab out of here so that we can work on the cab, as well as it's easier to work on the rest of the truck. So I want to remove everything from the frame. Everything everywhere is on the frame, and I want to totally restore this frame. Right now I'm trying to get a big air compressor and a big sandblaster so that we can use that to restore this whole thing. So once we get the cab off, we'll set it aside, and one or two of us will work on the cab, somebody else will be working on the rest of the truck, stripping things down, bringing this frame outside, sandblasting it. I might buy one of those inflatable paint booths and paint it in here. I'm not totally sure what I want to do with the engine yet. The engine is fine, it works good. There isn't even any smoke. It seems to have a lot of life in it, but I would like to upgrade it, get some more fuel going to it, things like that. This has got the DT466. I believe it's the 466E, but it's kind of like the pre-emissions. It does have an EGR, but I think that's the most it has. It doesn't have any of the other stuff on it, which is one of the main reasons I got this truck, because I don't want anything newer and more computerized. So there is a massive amount of work here to be done. So let's go ahead and get started. I think the first thing I want to do is pull the hood, and then we'll just start dismantling things from the firewall, so that way we can start working on getting the cab out of here. And by the way, I'm gonna be spending most of my time, I'm assuming, between wiring and air. That's gonna be my main job. I don't know if I'm gonna get much else done besides that, because there is a lot to figure out here. This was an old railroad truck, and they had a service body on the back with all kinds of stuff. There was outriggers, there was a crane, there was an air system, there was a hydraulic system, there was tons of lights, emergency lights, work lights, all kinds of different electronics that were on here. So it did take me a while just to sort out the regular old brake lights and blinkers and stuff, and I did get that separated from the rest. But we have a ton of wires that are not used for anything, so I need to get rid of all this stuff. I need to trace it back to its root, get rid of it right at the source, and that way we're not dealing with a bunch of extra headache from all that, because a lot of this has to do with stuff that I don't need anymore, but it's going to take forever to figure out what's what. So that's going to be one of my main jobs. And then of course there's the air too. There's a lot of air that some of it's not going to be used anymore and some of it is. Like for instance, the seats back here are air ride, so we will utilize that, but there's a few other things that we won't need that we're going to the back. Okay, that one's out.
in there, so that's nice. Exactly. 10 is too big, 9 is too small. 3 isles.
Frame out of here. This frame holds in the fuse box. So this is like a giant fuse. That's a lot of ground wires right there. Holy moly. Alright, so we've got all of the electronics pulled out of this spot right here. Everything has a home. Nothing will be confusing. So that is great. It gets a lot of stuff out of the way. So, now what we can do is start in with the air. Okay, so we just eliminated this whole box and a bunch of wires, some of which go here and some of which go to the back. That is awesome. I don't know what that was for, but it was definitely something on the service body that I don't need anymore. All of this, and all of the wiring going back, and then this box can be eliminated. Okay, so I really want to get this back to factory the best I can without all these thousands of extra wires. So I'm starting to learn that there's some wires that go through the firewall that look like they are not factory. So I'm going to trace every one of them back. Might as well spend the time now and do it while I'm unhooking everything. Just sort of eliminate everything. That way when I go to put everything back together, it's much more streamlined. I think pretty much any wires that I've disconnected so far are factory, and now I'm starting to get into all the extra wires. So I'm trying to trace down one at a time. I trace a bunch of them down to this, I believe, a brake controller, really old one, but that's got a bunch of wires in it. So let me unhook that, see where that brings me. And then there's some other systems in here which I'm not even really sure what they are, but there's this thing. I have no idea what that is. And then there's some sort of box in there that stays blinking all the time. I don't know what that is, but probably gonna have to take apart this dash and get into that, see what that's about. And then there's also this other, whatever this is, I don't know. We're just gonna have to figure out one thing at a time. And there's also some stuff up there, which I'm assuming was a CB at one point, I think. But then there's also the switch. I have no idea. But you know, part of this almost seems like it's factory because look at that. There's a crane button right there. And the wig-wag button, which I think is like a alternating strobe light on the headlights. That's a lot of wiring in itself. And then there's air compressor. So I think we got to take this whole thing out and just start eliminating all these wires. I don't need any of that stuff. But this is a cool little switch panel though. Maybe I will hook that up eventually and just change the labels around to other things that I might need, like winches and external lights that are on the bed and stuff like that. That'd be cool. Then there's also this other switch panel right here. There's a lot of switches right here. It's all factory style switches, but they must have, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know how they got it so factory looking like that. But this is about the only thing that I might still need. Rat's nest right here. Doesn't have to be though. I guess this is like, this was the factory computer here. Well, this one is here, the factory computer coupling here. And they spliced it in so that there's some other devices that are running off the computer. I wonder if they have like a tracking device on this thing that will disable it or something. See, I think that's the original computer right there. That's supposed to be mounted right here. Yeah, that's what it is. Oh, we're learning all kinds of stuff today. that. It really needs to go back there. It is like the best feeling when you hook back up factory stuff. Okay, so this cable here is only to do with the brake controller. That can be completely eliminated. It's just a ground. And that goes through the firewall. That is the kind of stuff I want to get rid of. Alright. Snip, snippity snip. That's what I want to hear. Right into this dash. There we go. Right into this one. Yes, sir. Probably took these guys months to retrofit these trucks. I'm just gonna tear it apart. Look at that. That's a lot to eliminate in 20 seconds. And then there's this, which I don't really... It's got an antenna on it. I think this is some sort of like tracking device. BSM wireless. Some sort of something that hooks to the computer. That cable, this cable right here, goes to the computer of this truck, which leads me to believe that that might disable this truck in the event that disabling the truck is needed for some reason. I'm not sure, but all this stuff can get eliminated. It says GPS right on there. So the only reason I can think of having a GPS hooked to the computer is to disable the truck if you need to from externally. Eliminated this. And you know what's cool about this? There was always this blinking light on this thing, no matter what position the key was in. So I know that that had a parasitic draw on everything, and it really strained the battery a lot. Like, you'd leave the truck for 2 weeks and it wouldn't start because something was drawing something. So I bet you this is what it was. This thing is just always running, always trying to get a GPS signal. That, over weeks of time, that can definitely drain the battery. I don't know how much any of this stuff is worth, but it's worth $0 to me. Oh, would you look at that? That is one rat's nest. Man, oh man. Well, at least we found where these wires go to. I don't know if that's stock or not. Kind of seems like it is. Yeah, that's stock. But some of it's not, like this stuff down here is not. Oh, let's see where these go. One wire at a time. That's eliminated. Goodbye. That's not need to be in there. This one does not need to be in there. None of this stuff needs to be in here. Snippity, snippity, snip. That's the ground. Yeah, it looks like there's more electronic devices underneath this thing. Yeah, maybe not. What's this? Okay. Rat's nest. That's good. All right, well, I'm gonna keep tracing wires and eliminating things. Oh, look at that. There's another one. That is part of the brake controller. Let's get that out of there. Look at that. I am absolutely loving this. Eliminating wires. I'll hook a brake controller back up, but for right now, I do not need to worry about that. Probably gonna have a trailer with air brakes. Need that. We don't need that fuse. We don't need that. The less confusing, the better. So I was noticing a couple of airlines that didn't look factory, that were going to somewhere that need to come out. Trace them back to this PTO. So I think we're just gonna pull them off right here, pull them through, label them, because they need to go back. I don't know if I have use for a hydraulic pump right now, but it would be nice eventually. Two airlines and two electric lines, and we need to keep them labeled. So what I've been doing is taking these number stickers and putting them on things that are important, and then I'll go on a piece of paper and kind of coordinate what goes where. So we'll do number 3 on this one. That's air or electric, whatever it may be. Okay, so we'll say it's the in, well, we'll just say it's the right side of the PTO switch. Let's just label that air. This is a hose. And the first one is a wire. That way we know what kind of material we're working with. Let's see here. So then number 4 will be this one. And I'm only labeling things that I need to put back. Basically, if it doesn't have a label, that means I need to trace it down and eliminate. We'll label this number 5. That is really just a PTO indicator light, just indicating that it's on. And sadly, we need to snip that. Maybe not. Yeah, I guess not. Okay, so those are ready to pull through, but they're not going to fit the way they are, so I need to actually probably need to cut them, really. It's the easiest thing. These don't like coming off. So here's 2 of them. Let's pull those through. That switch is for the rail wheel brakes. Definitely don't need that. I like how this dash comes apart so easy. It's really nice. That's got a bunch of air lines going to it that we can get rid of. You know, you got a little bit more work now, but 500% less work later when we go to put it back together. I'm all for that. Look at that. So these are totally eliminated. That's nice. Eliminate those right back to the rear end too. That is spectacular. Okay, so we've got all those unhooked, and now a lot of these go from the cab into here, which I think we're just going to keep with the cab when we pull it. So really all we need to do is pull the lines coming off of this whole thing, which is just these 2 here. Loops back around, and then just these 4 here, and then that should eliminate all connections to the cab. And every one of them is different size and color, so I don't even really have to label anything. And then this whole cluster can stay with here. I think this is the computer, or it's one of them anyways, and so we can just disconnect that by itself. These are kind of like a shark bite fitting. Just kind of push the flange and then pull out the hose. Easy. There we go. There's 2 hours worth of work to get that off.
Just garbage.
Yeah, I don't even know where that went to. Oh man, that is so much better. Alright, come off. Orange in the front, green in the back. Yeah, I cannot get this fitting to release this hose right here, so I think I have no choice but to cut it. At this point, I don't care if I have to replace this whole valve assembly here. I just want to get this done. The inside one's doing the same thing, so I'm just going to cut that one too. I'm not fighting with that. There's still enough left where I can reattach these. Alright, so I know this looks like a big mess of wires, but none of it is touching the cab. So that's what we wanted. This stuff should really be sealed off, like to not get any contaminants in this. Like before you do anything, I would seal off all open connections to the AC.
Huh? Sure.
I want to mark the position of this steering wheel. So I'm using marker, but as a backup I'm also using a couple scratches in there. There we go. All right. Okay, well that's good. There's a flat spot on there anyways. I figured there would be something like that, but I just wanted to make sure. All right, so at this point we are really close. So I got all the wires, all the air hoses, the steering linkage, I got all the shrouds and stuff, all the miscellaneous stuff. I got the AC lines off, I got the coolant lines off. So at this point we're down to just the clutch linkage, the shifter linkage, and the body mounts, which the body mounts, there's just two in the front here. One's right here. That's easy. There's another one on the other side, same way. And then there's just one on the back. So that's it right there. Which I think that's like a little tiny shock, like a shock absorber. But I believe we're gonna have to take off this bolt here. So this bolt and this bolt. I think this is going to be good enough. We'll have to maybe shift the cab a little bit once we go up with it. Have to shift the cab forward just to go over this, but I don't feel like getting involved in tearing the top of that transmission out. This is all rubber here, so may not even have to move the cab. Let's see what we got. Got that clutch linkage right there. Oh, just came right off anyways. Okay, so we got the air ride for the seats. Just gonna disconnect everything. Coupler right there. Let's see here. We got a T right here. I think that just supplies constant air, and then you adjust it on the seat. Okay, so the cab does have air ride. I think it wasn't hooked up before though. So I'm just gonna disconnect this T right here. And that way, that can go with the cab. Alright, so we're under the back side of the cab, and there's another shock, just like there was on the rearmost part of this cab. There's an identical shock here. I had to cut that because the bushing was seized up. There's a sleeve, there's a bolt that goes through a sleeve, and the sleeve goes through the eyelet of this shock, and that was seized in there, so I just cut it with a grinder on both sides. Got that out. Now I got these two airbags for the cab air ride, and you know, I just don't feel like messing with these right now. I'm sure there's a way to get them off, but I'm just gonna cut them. I'm not gonna put new ones on. They don't look to be in the greatest shape anyways. So, I think that's like the only thing that's connecting still. They're pretty dry rotted out anyways. Can't feel too bad. Alright, so I know there's probably one or two things that I missed. Maybe some mounting clips that just mount wires or hoses on the bottom of the cab. There's nothing going through the cab or into the cab. So we're going to take it slow. Rather than bringing a machine in here and just start tugging on this thing, and then we got to open the doors, let all the heat out. It's freezing cold outside. 40-mile-an-hour wind. sub-zero degree weather outside. So if we bring a machine in here, then we got to have fumes in here, we got to have the doors open, blah blah blah. So I think the first thing we're going to do is take some bars and some jacks and just start raising things up a 2x4 at a time. Just rest the 2x4 on the frame, get it 1.5 inches, then go 3 inches, and then check everything to make sure everything's good. And then once we know that everything's 100% clear, then we'll bring a machine in here and get this thing off of here, because otherwise we'll be fiddling around too much. I don't think this cab is very heavy. I could probably just lift it up with a bar instead of a jack, but okay. Hey, I guess now's my opportunity to tell you guys, I have never removed a cab before. This was actually a very, very daunting task for me to even think about starting. I've tried to do some research to see how hard this would be. I cannot find any information. JC Smith has some projects that he does a lot with these kind of trucks, medium and heavy duty trucks. I've seen him remove a cab from an International, but it wasn't as new as this one, and it didn't have all the stuff that came with this one. But you know, diving into this, I just sort of planned for the worst and hope for the best. I did eliminate a lot of the stuff from the back of the truck, a lot of the electronics and air. I still have some left to go. So at that point, it's just like a basic cab removal for this truck, which I don't think is too bad. I'm ready to take it off now. It was definitely a lot quicker than I thought, and I'm able to keep track of things a lot better. I thought I was going to have to cut a lot of wires and splice them back together and figure out all kinds of stuff. That was not really the case. Any wires that weren't in the factory harnesses pretty much got eliminated anyways. So this wasn't nearly as hard as I thought. Now getting this off, I have no idea how heavy this is. I don't think it could be even 1,000 pounds. So I don't think it's that heavy. But we do have to be careful with it, because getting another cab for this is a big deal. If I break something, I'm fixing it. I'm not getting another cab, because finding these cabs are not easy. Everybody wants them, and plus it's got the VIN number on it, so then you got to deal with that whole thing. So I'm not interested in doing that. I'm interested in taking it off nice and slow. No broken glass, no dented panels. I'm not putting the forks through the roof. I'm taking it easy, taking it slow. My skid steer I don't think is going to quite reach far enough though. I might have to bring the telehandler in here. Not quite sure. Now some people are going to say, why didn't you set up a lift in here and use that? Well, yeah, for a pickup truck you probably could do that. Maybe for this truck you could do that. I don't think so though. It's probably too wide. Also, it is really tall too. And my lift would be over there, and all the brackets for the door would be in the way, which they wouldn't be for a pickup truck. That's what I designed that whole area for, is a pickup truck or smaller. It's not meant for this kind of stuff. So I think worst case scenario, bring the telehandler in here. I'm gonna have to open the doors to let the fumes out. But right now I'm just waiting for my help to get back here, and we'll lift this off one way or the other.
Is that where you go putting it?
Blocks on the ground and just set this down.
Yeah. That's how she started.
That's a low rider. This is a low rider. Whoa, would that be nice? I'm just stepping out of the car. Why would I want this thing 4 feet in the air? It's nice down here. So here we are the next day. That was quite the task to get that cab off there. It just sits so high up in the air, and the point of attachments were just not that great. But we got it. So now we got free run of the rest of the truck. So the plan at this point is to first eliminate anything that I can, because there's a lot of wires and hoses, and I just don't want to have anything more than it needs to be on here. So we're just going to go right to the back here. I'm going to start with all these wires. I'm going to trace down every single one of them and just make sure it's something that is needed or not. And I can guarantee you 95% of these are not needed. And then there's also these right here, because I already have the lights hooked up. So anything beyond that is really just not needed, as far as electrical anyways. So we'll just trace them up to wherever they go to up here and completely remove them. So there's several modules. One is this one. I have no idea what that goes to. The other one is that one. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, right there. I have no idea what that goes to. Stuff that I don't need, and that's all I know about it. So we're gonna get rid of it. So I just got that in about 15 minutes. Most of this is for the rest of the truck, which I don't want to touch. I'm just tracing back a few spare wires, a few spare hoses, because remember on the front there was those wheels that go down when you're on the railroad. Those wheels are activated by air to go down and press against the track to lift the wheels up, or maybe not to lift the wheels up, but just to ride on those wheels, the steel wheels for the tracks, for the railroad tracks. So there's all the electronics and air to do with that, plus the one on the back. Yeah, I'm so glad to be getting rid of all this stuff to make it much more simple. Now if you look at what's going back to here, it's just basic air lines for brakes, basic wires for lights and trailer lights, and that's it. That's all I want back here. I had to put this in here for the reverse light because I couldn't get it to work, but other than that, everything is back to factory from about there all the way back. It makes it so much simpler. It's like the most satisfying thing ever to do that. So we just got a little bit more up here. And some of this stuff was not very obvious. Like when they tied in the wires for the lights in the front, because the lights flash, like the headlights flash individually, like almost like a cop car or something. So they had to isolate the lights to flash individually, plus all the other emergency lights on here, but just those alone, they had to tie into the harness for the headlights, and they did it in a way where it actually looked factory. So I was a little bit confused. I had to start peeling apart things very carefully and realizing, no, this is not factory, and I cut some splices there, and now I can hook back up the original wires to just hook the headlights up by themselves without going through all those crazy modules. All right, so another 20 minutes and I doubled my wire pile. Look at that. That is amazing. And I already have a whole bin of wires, probably more than that I took off when I originally did some work last year on this truck. All the wires from about there back in the service body. All those wires I have. And that more than doubles this. I literally took like 50 pounds of wire off this truck. Still got a few more things. I just want to get this really simple. It's still complicated up here, but this is all factory stuff. I really would love to not have most of these wires, but I guess if I want a modern engine, well, somewhat modern. It's not very modern anymore, but modern compared to the old DT466s, the mechanical ones. I'd really rather have a mechanical one in this, but kind of is what it is at this point.
Any of this stuff is anything?
We'll save it. This looks like International Operator's Manual.
Power unit.
Operator's Manual chassis. A lot of this stuff is from a train company. It's not necessary.
Wind electric.
I don't know what this is.
was talking about.
Break the window. Seems pretty stable though. I ain't going anywhere. Alright guys, so on this project I've decided to do some shorter videos and put them out more often. I do have a lot of people complaining about my long videos. I know a lot of you really do like the longer videos, but on this project we're just going to try putting out shorter videos. Probably around an hour, maybe a little over. So at this point we're going to end this video here. We have a ton of work to do. I did get a lead on a sandblaster and a new compressor, so maybe in the next video we'll touch on that, or possibly the video after that, I'm not sure. But we have a lot of work to do to restore that cab. That's going to be in the next video. And then we got to do some work up here. We just have like endless work to do to this. So we're going to make a whole bunch of videos on this, and hope you guys stay tuned, because this is going to be really cool in the end. It's going to be custom for what I need so that I can travel around, tow some heavy stuff, bring home some more equipment, bring some equipment to properties, etc., etc. And in general, this will be like an everyday truck. Let me know if you guys want me to pull this engine. I don't really see a point in doing it other than being able to sandblast the frame inside here and possibly clean up the engine better while it's out, possibly dismantle it more to clean up some parts on it. Other than that though, the engine seems very good. It's got very low miles on it. I don't see the need to rebuild the engine. Plus you can do an in-frame anyways. So I'm really on the fence about pulling the engine. I really don't want to, but I will if everybody thinks it's a good idea, if there's like a general consensus. But in the general scheme of things, it's not broken, so I don't know why I need to fix it. But let me know what you guys think. If I've come this far, should I pull it or should I not? So I want to make this really nice, and I don't want to cut any corners. So we have a lot of work to do. So I guess that's it for this video, guys, and I will catch you on the next one.